Hello, welcome to Friday's ITV News Central. On tonight's programme, fears another pilot event at Edgbaston could be scrapped after a pitch invasion last night.
There were hundreds of the students on the pitch. There was nothing malicious about it, but the fact is, at the time of COVID, it was a really bad look.
Also tonight, the rise in dogs attacking farm animals as people are urged to stick to the countryside code.
Swimming instructors warn a COVID backlog in lessons could have fatal consequences.
I'm here at Witley Court in Worcestershire, which is hosting an event this weekend to showcase its spectacular gardens and teach people a thing or two about gardening.
And the weekend is here, but is there any sunshine on the horizon? All the weather and pollen details are coming up later on in the programme.
Good evening. There's condemnation tonight over the behaviour of hundreds of students who invaded the pitch at Edgbaston Cricket Ground, ignoring pleas from stewards to maintain social distancing. They spilled out from the stands after an evening of partying at the T20 match.
The organisers of the student trip have branded what happened as totally unacceptable. But there are now fears that a COVID pilot event at the ground next month could be scaled back or even scrapped. Andy Bevan has our top story.
As the Birmingham Bears were leaving the pitch after losing to the Derbyshire Falcons in last night's T20 match, the pitch at Edgbaston was swarmed by hundreds of spectators. Amongst the quarter-full crowd of about 6,000 due to COVID restrictions, some 2,000 were students congregated in the Hollies stand. Despite warnings over the PA system and on the stadium screens urging people to stay in their seats and remember social distancing, the students poured out onto the pitch. Many had signed up to an event called Invades Edgbaston, an online promotion promising silly sixes, free-flowing pints and transport to the ground from Worcester, Coventry and Shropshire. There were also students there from Birmingham. ESPN cricket correspondent George Dobell was also at the match and had witnessed several streakers on the pitch before, he says, the dam suddenly broke.
There were hundreds of the students on the pitch. There was nothing malicious about it. But the fact is, at the time of COVID, it was a really bad look, particularly for a club that is arguing right now for greater spectator numbers at an international that it's hosting in a couple of weeks.
That match, an ODI between England and Pakistan, is scheduled to be a COVID pilot event similar to the England-New Zealand Test match earlier this month, with Edgbaston up to 50% full of negatively tested spectators. A decision on whether that will still now go ahead is yet to be made. This morning, the chief executive of Warwickshire County Cricket Club, which oversees Edgbaston, said, with society having spent the last 15 months managing the pandemic, to see a small number of people behaving in this way is heartbreaking. We apologise to the majority of spectators who respected social distancing measures. I will not let this company or crowd come to Edgbaston again.
I think it would be wrong to blame the club. They've made every effort to put the arrangements in place to keep everybody safe. It's unfortunate what's taken place, but I think we need to learn from that, move on and encourage people to continue to follow all of the rules and all of the guidance and to behave responsibly. You owe it to yourself, your loved ones and your friends to keep following the guidance.
Today the ground was all quiet as it prepared to be part of the government's Grab a Jab scheme. Staff will be welcoming young people over 18 this weekend to get a COVID-19 vaccination. As for those flouting the rules last night, a spokesperson for Invades told ITV News their behaviour was totally unacceptable and a one-off incident, promising to issue lifetime bans to anyone identified. Andy Bevan, ITV News.
Well, for more on this, let's talk to Professor Lawrence Young from the University of Warwick. Professor Young, how concerned were you by the pictures you saw from Edgbaston last night?
Well, very concerned, because I think any situation where people are really crowded together, even in outdoor areas, is a source of transmission, particularly as we're having to cope now with this more infectious Delta variant of the virus.
I mean, the pitch invasion is one element to the story, for which the club have said that people, if they find out who they were, will be banned for life. But it's almost more interesting to talk about the facts of why they were there in the first place. How sensible do you think it was to invite up to 2,000 students from 3 different universities from different towns and cities across the Midlands to what was effectively a booze up at the cricket without those tests and checks in place that we've seen at the official pilot events?
It's just like a completely bonkers thing to do when we know that levels of transmission of the Delta variant are increasing. It's increased by 46% in the last week, and it's predominantly amongst the younger, unvaccinated population. So it's asking for trouble, really, and I'm very surprised that it was allowed to go ahead in this way.
Just briefly, we heard earlier on this afternoon the government sort of released the first phase of information from those pilot events, not ones that we've seen at Edgbaston. These are the events that happened before that. No COVID outbreaks have been found. Is that encouraging for us going forward?
Well, I think it's very disappointing, actually, in the sense that this isn't a really complete study. They say themselves that there have been problems because they haven't been able to do the gold standard PCR test before and after the event, these events in many, many individuals. And what this is telling us is something we already know, which is that close proximity can increase transmission, particularly in crowded areas, but it doesn't really give us an accurate reflection of what's going on. And as I say, the studies are compromised because not everybody's being tested before and after the events.
And just finally, in terms of moving out of the situation we all want to see, not the pitch invasions, but scenes of people enjoying themselves at the cricket and at sporting events. Are we moving along in the right direction in terms of piloting these schemes? I mean, how do we get out of the situation we're in?
I think we do need to pilot these schemes, but we do need to have better monitoring of what's going on in terms of infection levels. We know the way out of this is vaccination. Everything over the last few weeks has pointed to the enormous benefit of vaccination and how that double jab is weakening the link between infections and disease and hospitalisation. So it's just moving forward as fast as we possibly can with jabbing as many people as we possibly can.
Professor Young, always nice to talk to you on the programme. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, this issue got you talking on our Facebook page today. A pretty even split, actually. Maureen Gilbert asks, why can't people just abide by the rules?
But Susan Hannaby says they're outdoors, reducing the risk. We can't stay locked up forever.
Short and sweet from Val Pilmer, who says simply no respect.
And Maxine Wren says people can't be trusted.
While Charlotte Houston says let them do what they like. They're packing out grounds for the Euros. You can still have your say, of course, across our social media feeds today. Thank you, though, to everybody who has taken the time so far to get in touch.
In other news, 2 men have been jailed for killing a man in Kings Heath in Birmingham. In September 2019, Aman Mamond had stepped in to defend his wife after she was racially abused while crossing the road. But he was punched and kicked, suffering serious injuries. Jamie Taylor, on the left, has been jailed for 4 years, and Taylor Putney, who's on the right, has been jailed for 3 years.
Now, there's been a sharp rise in the number of farm animals attacked by dogs. The estimated cost in the Midlands is £250,000, and a lack of training for puppies during lockdown appears to be playing a big part.
One farmer in Staffordshire told us he's baffled why people don't follow the countryside code, put dogs on leads near farm animals and keep to footpaths. Wesley Smith reports.
Will Rewbottom has his hands full looking after 250 lambs and 160 ewes at his farm near Rugeley. After 3 recent incidents, he's all too aware of the toll of dog attacks on farm animals. Images we've decided are just too graphic for us to show.
When a dog seems like it's having fun, it's actually causing a lot of stress to the sheep, and it's causing them their well-being to suffer, because at the end of the day, just from chasing a sheep, it can cause them to die. Over the last 6 months, I've actually had 3 attacks. I'm a young farmer, just started out with the sheep enterprise, so it's meant that we're losing income as well as it's affecting the welfare of the sheep themselves, which at the end of the day is the most important thing, the welfare of the sheep. A ewe is probably worth about £200, so it's going up into the thousands of pounds. Obviously you've got the ewe, and if they're pregnant they're losing the lambs as well, so it could be anything from £200 upwards.
Attacks on farm animals are classed as rural crime. Even if they're not physically attacked by domestic pets, the stress of the chase can lead to sheep deaths or miscarriages and lambs becoming separated from their mothers. That's the finding of one farm insurance specialist based in Stratford-upon-Avon, who cites lockdown as one of the reasons for the rise.
Last year in the Midlands, we started to see a sharp rise in the cost of dog attacks on farm animals. And we estimated that it probably amounted to about £250,000. But behind those figures is appalling suffering for the animals themselves and a lot of anxiety for farmers and their families as they deal with the aftermath of these attacks. Over lockdown, we've seen a number of new dog owners and their puppies might not have been socialised. There might not have been so many puppy training opportunities as well. Had a number of cases where farm animals have been chased into rivers and drowned. They've got their necks trapped in fencing and they've even fallen off cliffs as well.
The parliamentary process is underway to toughen laws. The National Farmers Union are also calling on the government to implement bigger fines for people who fail to keep their pets under control when they lead to harming farm animals. Only then can farmers like Will be confident that these really are fields where sheep may safely graze. Wesley Smith, ITV News.
Tickets for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham next year will include free public transport as part of plans to make the event carbon neutral for the first time. The aim is to keep the region moving, as the event could attract 1 million spectators. There are plans for green routes to encourage cycling and walking, and there'll be a shuttle bus as well. West Midlands Mayor Andy Street says people can have their say on the plans and that disruption to normal travel should be kept to a minimum.
Obviously a huge event coming to the region next summer. We want to make it a public transport based games and we want citizens' input into the planning that's now going on for that. We want the city and the region to continue running in a sense normally, so if you're going to work or going to shop or whatever, the services will be there, but also of course there'll be additional dedicated service for the sports venues, and it's a lot about how we do those two things together.
Now you're watching ITV News Central. Still to come on the programme this evening, are wind turbines a threat to our wildlife?
And if you think you've got a lot to do in the garden, imagine being responsible for this. There are warnings that there could be a steep rise in accidental drownings this summer. Every year, 402 people in the UK die due to accidental drowning. That's according to Royal Life Saving Society UK.
Well, there's been limited access to pools and leisure centres during the pandemic, and the national body for swimming, Swim England, says the impact of COVID-19 means more than 1 million children could leave primary school unable to swim. Nithya Rajan has more.
Pool time at Ladywood in Birmingham, and the children are in the middle of a swimming lesson. But with so much lost time, teachers are having to play catch-up.
A lot of the kids who was here before the lockdown, they was getting to lessons and they was doing the activities really well and they was progressing really good. But obviously since lockdown they've all gone back a few steps, so obviously it's hard to get them back into it, and then some of them are not coming back yet. So we're trying to get as much as we can back in.
According to the national curriculum, students should be able to swim 25 metres unaided by the time they leave primary school. But the domino effect of lockdown means that over the next 5 years, more than 1 million children could leave without being able to.
It's a drowning issue that really worries me, that every child should leave school, primary school, able to swim at least 25 metres, 3 strokes unaided, and very importantly, be able to perform a safe self-rescue if they do fall into the water.
Nobody wishes for this more than Nicola Davies. Her daughter Tia lost her life after trying to save a friend who had slipped into a pond. She was just 14 years old.
It is hard, but at the end of the day, I totally see another family going through what we're going through. I'd sooner them, personally with my own kids, I'd sooner them know how to swim and how to save a life.
And so her children now attend water safety lessons, joining small groups to pick up life-saving skills. And at the end of the hour, I asked them to sum up the class.
It was very fun, and I learned how to save a life with many different ways. That you can float on your back and you can throw ropes in to save people. If anyone's drowning now, I know how to save them. Come, sir.
Big arms, come on.
With some around the corner, these lessons are also a priority for instructors.
It's really important because with the amount of open water around, especially with drowning being so prevalent in the summer, it's a really important time to make sure that we're teaching these kids how to look after themselves and their friends while they're outside playing.
Beyond playtime, the Davies family want to see swimming and water education occupy a bigger part of the curriculum, on par with key subjects like maths and English. Nithya Rajan, ITV News.
Or whether it's in the pool or the classroom, the lockdowns of the past 15 months have, of course, taken their toll, particularly on children who've missed lessons as well as simply time in the playground.
Teachers are concerned that children's concentration spans have suffered along with their mental and physical health. So this week, schools across the Midlands have taken lessons outside to get youngsters active and engaged. Gareth Owen reports.
Children sprinting across the playground can only mean one thing. No, not playtime. This is a maths lesson.
It's fun because you learn maths while exercising. Usually a lot of the time in maths people just sit down and do the work, but this makes it a bit more exciting.
These youngsters at Colmore Junior School in Birmingham have ditched the textbooks for trainers, and they're taking part in a national active learning day.
It's actually quite fun because it's like a subject mixed with some fun PE activities.
And it's not like we're just writing in our books all the time, it's like we're being active and doing it in different ways.
Today the topic is angles. Find the correct ones in the playground, then move on to the next, like a treasure hunt. And when you learn like this, you tend to remember it.
Usually we're sitting in our seats and not moving much, but now we get to run around and it's much more enjoyable.
And it's fun because when you do maths you get to learn more, and you need to be good at maths to get more jobs.
With both the physical and mental health of children suffering through 2 lockdowns and homeschooling, staff hope this sort of active approach will help them get back on course with the curriculum, while also getting in some exercise.
We think it's important for a number of different reasons. 1, it gets them active. 2, it gets them outside and enjoying. And also in terms of learning, it's fantastic. We're seeing it have a bigger and bigger effect as the children's focus and concentration is not what it was. We're finding this is great for them.
With normal math, I struggle sometimes, but with active math, it's quite easy because you're active, but you're still learning.
And you enjoy being back at school, Autumn?
Yeah, because I get to spend time with my friends and learn even more things.
And other schools across the country are taking the same approach this week, learning things like addition, fractions, even telling the time while on the move, giving the brain and the body a workout. Gareth Owen, ITV News.
Wind turbines are seen as a key tool in the fight against climate change. The government is backing the development of renewable energy as it aims for a target of net zero emissions by 2050. But experts say while wind turbines are greener, there can be a cost to wildlife. Kevin Ashford reports.
They're an increasingly common sight in our region as more of the energy we use comes from greener sources. But when wind turbines come up against creatures such as birds and bats, there can be a problem, according to one expert from Dudley Zoo.
The main reason a lot of people are concerned with wind farms and wind turbines especially is because of the collisions when birds or bats actually are hitting the wind turbines themselves. But it isn't just that. Bats especially, they're really delicate small animals, so when they're flying in between the blades, the air pressure can actually rupture any organs that contain air within the bat's body and cause fatalities that way.
The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds says it supports the use of wind turbines to tackle climate change, but says they need to be planned carefully. The organisation works with developers to try to minimise the effects that turbines can have on bird populations.
Those impacts include collision, habitat loss, disturbance. Wind farms can also act as barriers to flight paths, for example birds that are on migration or trying to get to access feeding areas. And these impacts can be from an individual wind farm and also multiple wind farms. And with every new wind farm that is built, this adds to the impact.
These bats are being cared for at a rescue centre. 18 species are found in the UK, like this brown long-eared bat. Bats can be injured by flying into wind turbine blades, and experts say that one way bats could be protected is for the turbines to be stopped when wind speeds are low, conditions when bats are more likely to be flying. It's a technique used in other parts of Europe.
If you stop the turbine blades moving at these low wind speeds, you're losing minimal electricity or minimal revenue from the wind farm, and you're drastically reducing bat mortality by 80 to 90%.
The body representing the renewable energy industry says it's doing all it can to minimise the sector's impact on wildlife.
We absolutely believe that we can tackle climate change in a way that protects our rich biodiversity and our natural environment. We've gone from 2% of power coming from renewables in the UK at the start of the century to nearly half our power now. We've managed to do that without creating big environmental impacts, and we're continuing to work with the RSPB and other conservation bodies because we share the same aim of tackling climate change in a way that protects nature.
The government has commissioned research to try to understand more about the impact that wind farms can have on the environment. Conservationists say tackling climate change is crucial in protecting wildlife, but say the methods used must be carefully monitored. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
The ITV Evening News is on after us. With all the details now, here's Lucrezia Millerini.
Coming up, an apology from the Health Secretary after he was filmed in a close embrace with an aide. Matt Hancock admits he broke social distancing guidance and says sorry for letting people down. The desperate search for survivors in Miami, with dozens still missing after an apartment block collapses. Another rise in COVID cases, so is the vaccine still winning the race with the variants? Plus, we're live in Amsterdam ahead of a big weekend for Wales in the Euros. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, gardeners at a ruined mansion in Worcestershire have been working tirelessly to finish their biggest replanting of the year in time for a big event there this weekend.
They've planted nearly 5,000 summer plants into the formal gardens at Witley Court. And we've sent Pablo Taylor there to have a look. And oh, Pablo, look at it behind you. It looks absolutely glorious. And there's a bit of an interesting backstory to this place, isn't there?
Yeah, Witley Court was one of the great English country houses back in its day, especially in the Victorian times when it was used as a bit of a party house, if you like, for rich people. That was until 1937 when it was badly damaged by a fire, and it's now just, it lies in ruins, apart from the spectacular gardens which have been maintained by English Heritage. And I'm now joined by their head gardener, Jasmine Hinchliffe. Jasmine, who owned this place in its heyday?
This was owned by the Dudley family. There was 2 earls that owned the court here, and they made most of their money from the coal mines in the Black Country. This was their party house, so they only really came here on weekends to entertain royalty.
You must need a few guests to host a party in a house this size. Anyway, there were 40 gardeners in its heyday, and there are now just 4 of you. So tell us about the work that you get up to here.
So no 2 days are the same. We have lots of hedges here, and we mow the lawns, we use hedge cutters, we have woodlands and rhododendron walks, so lots of pruning. It's very enjoyable.
And what can people see and do when they come down here?
So you start on the other side of the site and you walk through. We have ornamental walks, woodlands, rhododendrons, a vast lake, and you can come enjoy the formal gardens and watch the main fountain over this side.
Now, there's a special event taking place this weekend. Can you talk about that?
Yes, so the Blooming Gardens event happens this weekend. We will be showing some of our machinery off. We have a brass band, tool sharpening, so you can dig out those tools from the back of the shed. We'll be doing plant sales, we'll have seed giveaway, and it will be great fun for everyone here.
And if you're like me and you can just about keep a house plant alive, there'll be lots of helpful advice on offer.
Oh, definitely, yeah, we're on help to any kind of question you can think of, even if it's a pepper plant.
I am still trying to keep that alive, by the way. Now, you weren't able to host this event last year, were you, because of the lockdown? So I guess people are pretty eager to get out of their houses and learn all about gardening.
Yeah, definitely, because this time last year we were still in lockdown and people kind of refound their gardens last summer. So you can come here and even create a mini Witley Court at home, pick up some hints and tips, and we're always happy to help.
Well, brilliant. Thank you for that, Jasmine. Well, look, The two-day event kicks off tomorrow. Hopefully the rain stays off. It's just about started coming down here.
Pablo, it looks absolutely fantastic there. I'm slightly concerned about your gardening skills. Did you say you struggle to keep a houseplant alive?
Yeah, do you know what? I was saying this to Jasmine. I really struggle when it comes to knowing how often to water it, but Jasmine has very kindly explained that I need to stop watering it so much and actually just mist it occasionally. Now, every day, wasn't it?
Yeah. Mist your house plants every single day and just cut back on the watering slightly.
Well, there you go. So hopefully I'll have things in order when I go home today.
I've just got a vision of you, Pablo, now wandering around your house, misting your plants.
Misting away.
Marvellous. So, you know, there was a time where that wouldn't have interested me, but since lockdown, I've become gardening obsessed. We've talked about this before, so I could well be there getting my shears sharpened this weekend.
You love it. And that's not a bad weekend residence, is it?
It's
very
good.
nice.
All good. Right, let's get a check on the weather forecast, see what it's shaping up like for events like that and for gardening more generally. With the forecast for us tonight, here's Joe.
Making the most of it, whatever the weather. Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central Weather.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. The weekend is here and our weather is set to settle down over the next few days. 1 or 2 isolated showers across the Midlands during tomorrow, but bright spells getting out. And then on Sunday, although there will be more cloud around in general, it should feel pleasantly warm. Today's fronts pushing away, but leaving behind a legacy of low cloud, mistiness and drizzle overnight tonight. And starting tomorrow on a rather cloudy note for many, but improving. Brighter skies developing across the Midlands during the afternoon. 1 or 2 showers, though, a feature of the weather during the day tomorrow. Back to this evening's details. Lots of cloud around as we go through into tonight. Outbreaks of showery rain, still that fresh breeze. And with low cloud around tonight, as we go into tomorrow morning, temperatures won't be falling much below around 11 or 12 Celsius. So by no means chilly tonight, just rather damp if you're heading out and about or first thing tomorrow. On to tomorrow, and for most places a rather cloudy start to the day. Showers as well, outbreaks of patchy rain here and there perhaps, and into the afternoon skies beginning to brighten. Further showers moving in though across the Midlands during tomorrow afternoon, interspersed with some sunshine here and there, and ending the day on a largely fine note for most of us. Temperatures will get up to around 20 or 21 Celsius tomorrow afternoon. Looking ahead to Sunday, and there will be more cloud around in general, but we're looking at a largely fine day. Lots of usable weather for getting out and about certainly, and temperatures will make 20 or 21 Celsius. There's some rain to the south of the UK as we go through Sunday into Monday, perhaps just pushing into our part of the world, but we're largely dry as we head into the new week. Temperatures still doing pretty well for the time of year, with a bit of brightness in the mix.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Grass and nettle pollen levels have been high this week, and again tomorrow high across the Midlands. Unfortunately for hay fever sufferers, it'll be very high on Sunday and Monday. Have a good weekend.
Just to say, throughout the weather forecast, Yasmin was using this as a personal schooling evening and asking Jasmine all your gardening tip questions.
Well, I mean, look, when you've got an expert, you're not going to waste that opportunity, are you? Yeah, I've got loads of peace lilies, and I know you're taking the mickey out of Pablo there for overwatering his peppers, but I think I've been doing that to my peace lilies. So yeah, you do. Just in case you want to know, you missed your peace lilies as well.
Now we all know.
Yeah. Listen, we're going to say goodbye in a second, but just before we do, this is lovely. A 3-metre bronze statue of the founder of Lichfield Cathedral arrived there this morning.
Yeah, this statue took 5 years to complete, and it's by a Lichfield-born sculptor, Peter Walker. It travelled by lorry from a foundry in Wales.
So this sculpture will stand outside the entrance to the close at Dam Street to welcome visitors. It'll be unveiled and dedicated tomorrow.
Statue of Saint Chad. Right, that is all we've got time for this evening. We're off to mist our peace lilies. Have a fantastic weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Is it Friday?